Former President Donald Trump wants to reach out to President Zelensky and President Putin and create a peace deal. Yet the left media basically are continuing their assault on the former President Trump, even badgering him and making fun of him for trying to call us a peace deal. As you can see with MSNBC News, it says right off the bat, the most obvious problem is that even if Trump had skills in international diplomacy, he most certainly does not. He couldn't be seen as a credible arbiter. As anyone who's been awake in recent years knows, the former president spent 4 years going to almost comical lengths to make Putin happy, to the point that his own director of national intelligence later admitted he feared Trump had been compromised by the Kremlin. Well, that's because the war machine wants a continual state of war with an old enemy, because the past enemy, which is radical fundamentalists like Al Qaeda, are no longer an enemy that can be taken seriously because they're destroyed or in Guantanamo prison. And when you have people like MSNBC News making fun of Trump for trying to reach out, hey, listen, I'm no fan of Trump. I actually don't vote for criminals. That's why I don't vote for a president. But I got to give the guy a little bit of credit for trying. But because your hatred for the right is so much that you want to spite him and then support the CIA-funded war in Ukraine. And yes, it is a CIA-funded war. CNN would later write, with the forces retreating Ukraine, international allies expressing concern and citizens at home fleeing partial mobilization. Russian President Putin has reached for the threat of nuclear weapons to revive Western fears of atomic apocalypse. Well, that's a misleading headline. He actually only threatened nuclear aggression if the United States continues their aggression toward Russia itself by sending billions of dollars to these ultra right-wing separatists in the separatist regions. And basically, it's like Afghanistan 2.0, where we see these groups basically being supported by the CIA and given billions of dollars in weapons and aid through these proxy groups that are in the Eastern European territories. In 2014, the Daily Beast and Jacobin magazine actually broke a story where the CIA was actually training these ultra right-wing separatist groups in Donbass and Luhansk, which were the disputed regions that Russia took over. That was what the war was about. Basically, they helped to create a coup in February of 2014, which was called the Revolution of Dignity, which actually helped force out Viktor Yushchenko, the former president, who was actually elected in an honest election, but because he didn't want to join NATO and he actually favored for the Russian treaty, basically the CIA helped to depose him with a coup d'etat, which was called, like I said, the Revolution of Dignity. In came in an interim government, and then your puppet came in with Zelensky. This is the problem with the United States, is that they will interfere in other countries' elections. They will interfere in other countries' political atmosphere if they can actually get away with it by implementing a puppet leader for the West or for the coalition partners to the West. Somebody who's in favor of the Middle Eastern allies like the Gulf, that's Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, and Israel. And these are countries also favorable to the West, in which the West is also favorable to them, and do them favors regarding interfering in Middle Eastern countries on their behalf through false flags or through coup d'etats, which we saw in a failed coup in Syria, and of course a successful coup with Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, and of course a successful coup in Saddam Hussein with Iraq. Not to mention that some of these people are actually dictators. But then again, these countries didn't have problems that led to jihadist organizations taking over these countries. Once we deposed Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein, in came in the Islamic State. And who was buying Islamic State's jeeps and weapons? Well, it was the CIA through a program called Timber Sycamore in Syria. Um, we were also given weapons to these groups in Libya that actually helped to kill Muammar Gaddafi. You could thank Hillary Clinton for that one. Remember, we came, we saw, he died. So basically, the United States has a long, sordid history of deposing leaders and basically implementing leaders that are favorable to the United States and the coalition partners. Also, too, and I just want to bring this up because this was in the Telegraph, which is a UK-based media outlet, where it says U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said the United States will act at the UN Security Council on Friday to hold Russia accountable for Moscow's referendums and proclaimed annexation of parts of Ukraine. Well, I think that's quite ironic. Isn't that what Israel did to the Palestinians regarding the West Bank and Gaza Strip? Are we holding them accountable? Heck no. In fact, the United States continues to support Israel's continued raising of homes, creating racially segregated checkpoints because we consider Israel an ally. We don't consider Russia an ally. In fact, they're an enemy that we're trying to revive because we have no more enemies to fight. Al Qaeda is defeated. Islamic State is basically destroyed, and they offer no international threat. In comes Russia, in comes Iran, in comes China. And when the Republicans win the House and Senate in 2022, later on this year, and when they win the presidency in 2024, you can expect a revisitation to our old enemies, the Cold War, whether it be Russia or China or Iran. One of those countries will be in the crosshairs because the United States, Israel, and Saudi Arabia need an enemy to continue this constant state of war in order to help the fat pockets of people in charge of Raytheon, Boeing, LG3 Technologies, and those are the private military industrialists and the Pentagon.